If you were to ask me what my favorite game is, I wouldn't be able to give you a definitive answer, considering there's a lot to choose from. A Hat in Time, Enter the Gungeon, Terraria, Hollow Knight, Gangsta Woman.
Hit him with the power attack. Yeah, okay, that killed me. Why?
And one of the first games I ever played, Minecraft. I first got Minecraft Java Edition when it was in version 1.8, 6 years ago. Now in 2020, we're in version 1.15 with 1.16 on the way. And apparently I'm not the only one who liked the game, as Minecraft as of now is the best-selling game of all time with 200 million copies sold, according to Wikipedia. Safe to say, this game is very popular. Sometimes for the worst! But anyway, whenever something becomes popular, spin-offs are sure to follow. And one spin-off of Minecraft that was released recently was Minecraft Dungeons. But, is it good? Let's find out. At least in my opinion. So anyway, let's begin this review with the story. It's a Minecraft spin-off. Safe to say I'm not looking for a plot that'll make Lord of the Flies look like fucking Twilight in comparison, but the story's fine for what it is. So basically there's this guy and hey wait, hey man, why the long face? So basically there's this guy called the Arch-Illager, and he got rejected by his people, so he's trying to find a new home, but he got rejected by them as well. And he finds this thing called the Orb of Dominance, which totally isn't a fucking cube, and decides to make everyone bow to him. One village doesn't bow to him, and he attacks it. And we start off in that village, or another village that was attacked, I don't know, in the tutorial level Squid Coast. And after completing the tutorial, you set up camp there. As well, every level's intro cutscene tells you why you're there, except for the secret levels. For example, you're in Soggy Swamp because the witches are brewing potions and you can't let the Arch-Illager get them. And you're in the Desert Temple to destroy a staff that can raise the dead so the Arch-Illager can't get his hands on it. Speaking of, there's a lot of build up to the Arch-Illager fight, as he shows up in pretty much every level, summoning enemies and bosses. Though it has to be said that the final battle just kinda comes out of nowhere. So you're wandering around the Obsidian Pinnacle and go on these two bounce pads, and you enter this area. The Arch-Illager arrives and you fight him. Usually final bosses have a really cinematic introduction, at the very least a big and foreboding door, but here it's just a bounce pad, and after you kill the first phase, out comes the Heart of Ender. And I know that Endermen, along with creepers, are one of the more recognizable things to come out of Minecraft, but the Orb of Dominance didn't really show any relation to Enderman or the End until now. Granted, Endermen are a sub-boss in this game, however they do not show up in High Block Castle, Underhalls, or the Obsidian Pinnacle, which are the 3 levels that take place in the Arch-Illager's lair. Though on the doors there is a mural of the Ender Dragon, as well there's this thing in the Obsidian Pinnacle that I'll just call the Ender Monstrosity, though there are no other mentions of Ender in High Block, Underhalls, or the Obsidian Pinnacle that I know of. Now, out of nowhere bosses aren't necessarily a bad thing, as they can provide some really good oh shit moments. How is it executed here? Well, it's fine. I'll talk more about the actual fight in the gameplay segment, but anyway, after beating the Heart of Ender, the Arch-Illager is defeated, and forgiven, and there was peace.
Until it wasn't.
So yeah, the game ends on a cliffhanger, which will either get resolved in the upcoming DLCs or maybe in Minecraft Dungeons too. So anyway, overall the story's fine. Not terrible, but not gonna be held up as one of the greatest video game plots of all time. Or maybe it will. I'm not really the best at judging stories. Besides, I usually prioritize gameplay in my enjoyment of a game. Speaking of, let's talk about gameplay. Minecraft Dungeons has been branded a Diablo ripoff of sorts, and now would be a good time to tell you I've never played any game like Diablo, or anything of the sort for that matter. Minecraft Dungeons is my first time in a game like this, and I gotta say, I really did have fun. I do have one grievance though. Compared to Minecraft, Minecraft Dungeons does away with anything to do with building and focuses entirely on combat. That's not a bad thing by itself, though since it's Minecraft Dungeons, I do wish they tried to incorporate building one way or another. It's not like the lack of building is a deal breaker or anything, I just thought of bringing it up. So anyway, we start off in Squid Coast, which is your basic tutorial level. It teaches you how to attack, move, roll, use your artifacts, use your map, all the stuff you need to know. And after that, you get into the game proper. Aside from the tutorial level, most levels in Minecraft Dungeons have procedurally generated elements. For example, in this part of the Obsidian Pinnacle, you'll either fight an Evoker or a Redstone Golem. And at this point in Cacti Canyon, you'll sometimes fight the Skeleton Horseman as a mini-boss, or sometimes you won't. There might be a difference here or there, however, it doesn't make a big difference in terms of level layout. When you kill enough enemies in Minecraft Dungeons, you level up, and not only does that bring you back to full HP and make you stronger, but it also gives you an enchantment point, and you can use those enchantment points to upgrade your weapons and armor. These enchantments add special effects to your weapons, and each special effect can be upgraded 3 times. And you get a choice from at the very most 3 different enchantments for each slot, though you can't unenchant your gear, so choose wisely. Though when you salvage an enchanted weapon, you get the enchantment points you used on it back. However, I didn't notice when I was playing through it, so yeah. Melee weapons, armors, and bows all have different enchantments that can be applied to them. For example, melee weapons can be enchanted to sometimes spawn chains to stop enemies in their place when you hit them,
as well as a chance to land a critical hit on an enemy when you attack it. Satisfying as fuck. You can make it so that the arrow you fire grows the farther it gets, or make the arrows pierce, in the case of enchantments for bows. For armor, you can do stuff like, for example, make it so it has a chance to deflect projectiles when you get hit, or summon consumables when you use a health potion. Now, there are many more enchantments than what I listed, though I don't have time to mention them all. What I will mention is that some types of gear will always have one type of enchantment on it without taking an enchantment slot. For example, Gravebane will always have the Smite enchantment, meaning it deals more damage to undead enemies. The Axe Firebrand will always have Fire aspect on it, meaning it will set enemies on fire. The Ember Robes will always have the enchantment Burning on them, meaning they burn enemies in melee range. And the Eternal Knife will always have the enchantment Soul Siphon, which gives you a chance to get a bunch of souls when you hit an enemy. And I think that's a pretty good transition to talk about what souls are used for. When you kill an enemy with an item that allows you to get souls, well, you get souls. These items are usually ones that require souls to be used or allow you to get extra souls upon killing an enemy. Well, the enchantments Anima Conduit, Enigma Resonator, and Soul Speed all have something to do with gathering souls. That isn't souls' primary use. Instead, their primary use is basically as ammo for certain artifacts. For example, the lightning rod, when you have enough souls, can be used to cast lightning and do so much damage. Yeah, that's right, eat it, Heart of Ender, you son of a bitch. That is, provided you have enough souls to use it. I'm not sure if it's like the Harvester, where the more souls you have, up to 25, the stronger it'll be. But it did good damage here, so I'm happy. Another artifact that requires souls to be used is the Corrupted Beacon, and when you use it, it releases a Kamehameha! The maximum amount of souls you can have at a time is 50, and with max souls, you can fire the corrupted beacon for 4 seconds. Not all artifacts require souls to be used, however. For example, the fireworks arrow, fishing rod, and totem of regeneration don't require souls to be used. Most artifacts have a cooldown before they can be used again, however some like the lightning rod don't, and up to 3 artifacts can be equipped at once. Some artifacts will summon a companion to help you out. For example, the Golem Kit, Tasty Bone, and Wonderful Wheat will summon a Golem, Wolf, or Llama respectively. I found myself using the same types of artifacts throughout my run of Minecraft Dungeons, though admittedly that's probably my fault. I found myself using a few different types of weapons and a lot of different types of armor. That's because I always chose the one that had the highest defense, and I was getting them on a pretty consistent basis. I was a little more picky with weapons, as when it comes to these types of games, I'm not really the most flexible, and I usually just prefer using one type of weapon, which in this case for Minecraft Dungeons was glaives. Due to their range, though, I did sometimes find myself using other weapons. As for bows, I stuck with like regular bows for most of my run through Minecraft Dungeons, though I eventually started to like crossbows more. To heal in Minecraft Dungeons, you will drink health potions. You have an unlimited supply of them, though there's a cooldown between when you can use one, so use it wisely. You can also heal by food, which is dropped by mobs, and each food heals you a different amount by giving you a regeneration buff. Mobs can also drop potions that give you a temporary speed buff, a temporary strength buff, or the shadow form buff, which makes your next attack much stronger as well as making you invisible. Another consumable in the game is arrow bundles. You see, each bow has a different amount of arrows it starts out with, and depending on where the arrow bundle comes from, it can give half the quiver starting amount, the full starting amount, or 1/4 of the starting amount. Sometimes enemies or chests will drop TNT, and you can throw that at enemies to heavily damage them. Overall, the controls do feel pretty smooth, and for the most part I felt like all the damage I took was my fault. Though it is pretty hard for a game to be unfair when all in all it is pretty easy, which Minecraft Dungeons is. Minecraft Dungeons does have multiple difficulty settings, however. The first form of the difficulty settings is the default, adventure, and apocalypse difficulty settings. You start the game out at the default difficulty setting, and when you beat the Archillager you unlock adventure, and when you beat the Archillager on adventure you unlock apocalypse difficulty. This helps for replayability as Minecraft Dungeons is a pretty short game. Minecraft Dungeons only has 10 required levels and 5 secret levels. There's also another way to adjust the difficulty, and that's the difficulty slider before each level. The higher the difficulty, the stronger the enemies and the better loot you can get from playing the levels. Unlike the default, adventure, and apocalypse difficulty settings, the difficulty slider just makes enemies stronger, whereas the default, adventure, and apocalypse difficulty settings not only make enemies stronger, but also makes it so that more enchanted enemies spawn, and some enemies spawn where they wouldn't on a different difficulty. For example, on the default difficulty in the redstone mines, only one redstone golem will show up, and as the boss of the level. While on the adventure mode difficulty in the redstone mines, redstone golems may also show up as mini bosses. Or while in adventure mode in creepy crypt, wraiths will show up, but in the default difficulty mode they will not, among many other examples. The difficulty settings don't just change the difficulty, however, they also change what loot you can get. For example, in the Creepy Crypt, the Soul Bow and the Phantom Armor won't drop if it's on the default difficulty setting, but it will if it's set to Adventure difficulty. Turning the difficulty slider up gives you a better chance of getting better loot, though lowering the difficulty slider won't lock you out of getting rare loot, it'll just lower the chances of that. Anyway, as I was saying, the game is pretty easy, and one of the reasons for that is that you have 3 lives before you actually get a game over. I got my first death in the redstone mines and my first game over in the fiery forge to the redstone monstrosity. And the fiery forge is one of the final levels in the game. As I said before, Minecraft Dungeons is a short game with 10 required levels and 5 secret levels. I played the game blind, and on my first playthrough I only found one secret level, the Underhalls, because it is by far the easiest to find. Overall, I wouldn't say that any of the levels ran on for too long, maybe except for the Fiery Forge and Obsidian Pinnacle. I didn't really find myself absolutely hating or even disliking any level in the game, but it's not like I can point to any level in the game and say, oh my fucking god, this level is fucking amazing, it's one of the best fucking levels in video games ever! So the levels are fine. They're not bad, but they're certainly not the best levels ever. Though what all levels are full of is enemies. And in Minecraft Dungeons, there are two types of enemies. Some enemies that die when hit by a light breeze, and some that can take a bit more of a beating. The former of which are usually put into gigantic hordes, and let me tell ya, it is satisfying as fuck to mow them all down. Well, the latter of which are usually armored versions of weaker enemies, are placed into hordes of weaker enemies to make things a bit more difficult. As well, most enemies have a chance to spawn in enchanted, which gives them a variety of special effects. Like Fire Trail, which causes them to leave behind a trail of fire, and Chilling, which slows you down in a large circle around them. Enemies can also be enchanted by the Enchanter mob. However, mobs enchanted by the Enchanter can only have the enchantments Fast Attack and Double Damage. As well, enchanted mobs can take a few more hits than unenchanted mobs. Most enemies are fine, but there are a few that can be a little annoying. For example, the Royal Guard. They are a bit of an exception to the rule I stated earlier where only frail enemies are put into hordes. As Royal Guards are pretty tanky, you even have to destroy their shield first before you can hurt them, and they spawn in pretty big groups, but nowhere near as big as hordes made up of frailer enemies. And they are pretty slow to compensate, but they can still hurt you a lot if you let them get close. Geomancers aren't that bad, but they can block your movement with these stone walls, which can end up being pretty annoying. Probably the most annoying enemy in the game is actually a mini-boss, the Redstone Golem, and it's annoying because it takes forever to kill. And as well, these guys are everywhere in the Obsidian Pinnacle. Creepers and spiders aren't all that annoying by themselves, though in the Creepy Crypt, both of them spawn a lot, and you know what happens when you mix an enemy that immobilizes you and an enemy that explodes? Well, the answer is... I don't hate any of the bosses in Minecraft Dungeons, though I wouldn't say any of them are standout amazing brawls. The Corrupted Cauldron can be annoying with how many slimes it spawns, but you can just take cover behind defenses to get out of their range. I don't like how the Evoker shows up as a mini-boss before it shows up as a boss in the Pumpkin Pastures. The Redstone Golem's first encounter as a boss is fine, if a little annoying because of all the lava in the room. The Nameless one is fine, but look at the fucking damage these shots do! The Redstone Cubes, the Redstone Monstrosity spawns can be a bit of a pain, but overall the fight's fine. I haven't unlocked the secret boss, the Mushroom Monstrosity, yet. The final boss, the Arch-Illager, shoots shots similar to the Nameless one, however, he shoots 3 of them and they don't do as much damage. He also summons many Vindicators and Pillagers and even enchants them. As well, you can use the bounce pads around the arena to move around quickly. After you kill the Arch-Illager, the arena changes and you have to fight the Heart of Ender, whose attacks consist of crawling around leaving behind a void trail which damages you, shooting small pink exploding fireballs which leave a bit of fire behind, firing 4 lasers in a plus formation and spinning them around, and summoning heads to shoot lasers. My main difficulty with the fight was the spinning laser attack, as I thought you were supposed to roll through it because I thought your roll granted invincibility frames. It doesn't, and for some reason my dumbass thought, oh, if I keep rolling it'll work eventually, which it didn't. You're just supposed to run away from it. Oh, by the way, the Archillager in his first phase has a chance to summon a redstone golem. It's a small chance, but a chance nonetheless. And unlike the Vindicators and Pillagers, the redstone golem doesn't disappear when the Heart of Ender appears. So if he spawns, you might have to fight the Heart of Ender and a redstone golem at the same time. Luckily, I've got a perfect way to deal with it. Turn off your game and aside from that, I'd say despite it being a welcome step up in difficulty, the Heart of Ender fight is just average. Though I do think the Heart of Ender's design does look pretty cool. So overall, the gameplay is pretty good, but not excellent. I didn't really dislike any of the levels, though I didn't really love any of them either. And same thing goes for the bosses. And I know I said lack of building wasn't a deal breaker, but looking back on it, they definitely should have added some more core gameplay concepts from Minecraft into here. That's because despite it being Minecraft dungeons, it feels nothing like Minecraft. And I know they are different games, however, Minecraft Dungeons is a spin-off, and spin-offs I'm pretty sure are supposed to take a bit more from their original source. The only things Minecraft Dungeons really takes from Minecraft is the name, a few enemies, and the art style. Anyway, let's talk about how the game looks. As I said before, it has the same art style as Minecraft, however, not everything looks the same. A few examples being the stone bricks in the desert temple have sand on them, there are red-colored leaves on the trees in pumpkin pastures, and not all blocks are the same size.
Hey, post-production Michael here for some clarification. That was not what I meant to say at all. What I meant was, like, there are some blocks in this game that aren't in the original. For example, here you can see, like, grass slabs and, this big torch and, those mushrooms there. Do you see what I mean? Okay, let's continue.
Among other examples. And overall, I think this game looks pretty good. And even though I do have a lot of nostalgia for the Minecraft art style, even if I didn't have any nostalgia, I would still say the game looks good. As well, the game runs very smoothly, as from what I can remember, I didn't experience any frame drops at all. In all honesty, I don't really have a lot to say about how the game looks. That's because when it comes to my enjoyment of a game, I don't really care much about graphics unless they're either really, really good or really, really bad. The soundtrack, however, does contribute a bit more to my enjoyment of a game, especially if it's really, really good. And while I don't think Minecraft Dungeons' soundtrack is necessarily really, really good, I do think they did a good job on the soundtrack and do have a few favorites from it, such as So, in conclusion, what do I think about Minecraft Dungeons as a whole? Well, overall, I think the game is pretty good, but can definitely be improved. As I said, the soundtrack's pretty good, the game looks pretty good and runs smoothly. I didn't really hate or dislike any level or boss in the game, but I didn't love any of them either. The story isn't horrible, but it's a bit generic. Overall, the game is pretty easy, but not completely devoid of challenge. And despite being Minecraft dungeons, there isn't any mining or crafting, or even building for that matter. And I know it doesn't have to be completely like Minecraft, but still, they could have taken some more core mechanics from Minecraft and tried inserting them here. Though I do believe it is better to base a game's quality on what it does do rather than what it doesn't do, except for some special cases. And what it doesn't do is still a factor. Also, the game is pretty short on a first playthrough with only 10 required levels and 5 secret levels. If you want to buy Minecraft Dungeons, it's gonna set you back about $20 for the standard edition and $30 for the Heroes edition, which contains the base game, some other stuff, and the 2 upcoming DLC packs, The Jungle Awakens and Creeping Winter. And I got the standard edition of the game. But anyway, my personal rating of Minecraft Dungeons is 6.1 out of 10, as I think the game is pretty good and did have a bit of fun playing it. However, I feel like the game is a bit too short, and in that time span, there wasn't really anything remarkable about the game, it was just pretty good, which makes it kind of hard for me to recommend Minecraft Dungeons above other games that are available right now. And as well, I can think of quite a lot of games that I would have more fun playing than Minecraft Dungeons. But that doesn't mean I think Minecraft Dungeons is a bad game. But anyway, with that concludes my review of Minecraft Dungeons. What did you think about the game? Did you love it, or did you hate it, or does your answer fall somewhere in between? Post it in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like? And if you enjoyed this video along with the other content I make, why not hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell for when I upload. But anyway, remember, creepers were made when Notch screwed up the motto of a pig, and see you on the next video.